The Eschaton theory that the planet Earth is one giant organism, and that we do not share its consciousness because of our scaling. Like the idea that our individual cells might be conscious but they, nor us, are not aware of the other's consciousness. We as humans might be the equivalent of the individual neurons of our brain, forming an internal network of communication for the entire planet. I have had a thought about this recently which I will tell you. One of the science fiction fantasies that haunts the collective unconscious is expressed in the phrase, "a world run by machines." In the 1950s this was first articulated in the notion, perhaps the future will be a terrible place where the world is run by machines. Well now, let's think about machines for a moment. They are extremely impartial, very predictable, not subject to moral suasion, value neutral, and very long-lived in their functioning. Now let's think about what machines are made of, in the light of Sheldrake's morphogenetic field theory. Machines are made of metal, glass, gold, silicon, plastic. They are made of what the Earth is made of. Now wouldn't it be strange if biology is a way for Earth to alchemically transform itself into a self-reflecting thing? In which case then, what we are headed for, inevitably, what we are in fact creating is a world run by machines. And once these machines are in place, they can be expected to manage our economies, languages, social aspirations, and so forth, in such a way that we stop killing each other, stop starving each other, stop destroying land, and so forth. Actually, the fear of being ruled by machines is the male ego's fear of relinquishing control of the planet to the maternal matrix of Gaia. So, based on my own experience, I've come to the conclusion that the individual human body is no more, no less, than one of the billions of skin cells we lose every day. Each of those cells was once bursting with youth and health, before it lived its allotted span, shriveled, and then fell as dust. Now, if a skin cell became conscious, and forgot that it was only a temporary and recyclable part of a much larger living body, it too would no doubt feel the same existential trauma experienced by all living, sentient creatures. It would fear its own demise as we do, because it would have forgotten its purpose and function within a larger context, and become trapped in the illusory yet painful cage of individuality. Like skin cells, or perhaps more like immune cells, we, as individuals, are all part of one immense intelligent living creature which has its roots in the Cryptozoic era, and its living tendrils, including us, probing forward through the untasted jelly of the 21st century. The body of this vast and intelligent life form, the biota, as it's known, is still in its infancy, and still at the stage in its life cycle where it must consume the planet's resources, like a caterpillar on a leaf. What looks like environmental destruction to us is, I believe, the natural acceleration of an impending metamorphosis, just as a caterpillar gorges itself to power its transformation into a butterfly. So too does the biota consume everything in its path, in preparation for its own imminent transformation into adult form. Quite soon now, possibly within 10 years even, the infant creature in the body of which we are all mere cells will awaken to its true nature. The concept of individuality will vanish overnight. As the imaginary walls separating our minds collapse, we will realize there is only one mind, and our mega-maggot will metamorphose, leaving the planetary cradle and the 4 dimensions of space-time, to be born at last as a fully formed adult creature designed for existence in a higher dimension fluid continuum, or informational supermembrane. As immune cells inside this gigantic, living, tree-like body that's currently huffing and puffing its way towards maturity, it's our job to do everything we can to keep the larva healthy and developing normally. That's if we want to be born as adults into hyperspace timelessness, and quite frankly, I fancy the idea. All life is the same life. All thoughts are the same thought. No one dies at all, except in the way that a baby has to die for a child to be born, and the child has to die for the adult to be born. That's all death is at every stage. scary transformation. And, although individual bodies seem to wither, fall away, and be lost, consciousness remains as a function of the biota. Grant Morrisson. The Greek word eschatos refers to the last things, the final things. The Eschaton is a neutral way of naming what some call the Buddha Matranya, some people call it the UFO intervention at the end of history, and some call it the second coming. It's the last thing, the Eschaton. What I think is happening is that all boundaries are dissolving, between men and women, between society and nature, and ultimately the boundaries between life and death. Terence McKenna. The reclaiming of the body, that's the critical political battleground. Your mind is now your own, in some sense. It was a mistake. It wasn't supposed to happen that way. But the acceleration of psychedelic use in the 20th century, the explosive spread of the internet. In some sense it's as though we have broken from the slaves' quarters and are already milling in the streets. But we don't yet have the power, or the understanding to know where the centers of power are, and how it is that they disempower and manipulate us. That's because we haven't focused on the body. This is, I suppose, the thing which gives the eros thing cogency. Terence McKenna.
The robot is your friend.